Hello, I'm talking to you here today with my Colt Official Police 38 Special and a leather shoulder holster. You may think you've seen this gun before on my videos of me taking this apart and demonstrating it, but you haven't. That gun was a post-war gun made in 1961. This is a pre-war gun. This was made in 1944. And this was the first cartridge loading handgun I ever got. And what prompted me to buy this, I was 27 years old. I didn't know much about guns except that I liked shooting them occasionally. I had a 22 that my dad had given me, a single shot shotgun and things of that sort, a BB gun growing up. But I never really thought, could I really buy one? Could I just go out and buy one? Is it that simple? Well, what prompted me to think that was the neighborhood was having some trouble, some break-ins, cars getting broken into, that sort of thing, and I just thought, with that going on, and as much as I traveled at the time, I probably ought to think about getting a gun. It was a big step thinking about that back then. Just never thought about it before. And I always thought if I had ever gotten a gun, it would be something like a 45 automatic, 1911 or something modern and cool looking and all that. And, well, then I got to thinking about something my dad told me that he had said for years, how he always wanted a 38 Special. That's what he called this, and the Smith & Wesson version. The 38 Special, the policeman's revolver. That's what it was known as. That's what he was used to seeing growing up. That was, just something plain Jane, fundamental. And that made a little more sense to me, actually. So I went down to the local gun store in Houston that I frequented and started looking in the used revolver section. I was looking for a Model 10. Model 10s, I'd kind of read about them. They're good, simple, fundamental guns. They're the 38 Special. But then I saw this. I thought that looks just right. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. It feels good in my big hands. It's large, but not too big. It's just a medium-sized, plain Jane service revolver. I like it. I'll buy it. I think I got it for maybe $250, something like that. It didn't look like what you see now. A lot of the bluing was faded. It was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of a grayish blue. Maybe it had been reblued at some time, I don't know. But kind of faded. And it did have its problems, as it turned out. I didn't know that at the time. This gun really has been a learning. I'm very fond of this gun. It's been a fun gun to shoot, to have. It's been a learning experience. I've had a lot of frustration with it. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've learned a lot working with this gun over the years. So anyway, I bought it, and one of the first things I noticed about it was, after I took it to the range for the first time, is that, and I want to kind of demonstrate this to you. It's not doing it now. It's in good working order now, but when I pull the trigger, let me see if I can get this in front of the camera where you can see it. I can't really, but anyway, you see how the bolt right there pulls away and then the cylinder starts rotating? Well, that bolt is supposed to clear the cylinder before the cylinder starts rotating. That wasn't happening. And the gun had a lot of wear on it. It was that these cylinder notches that you see right here, these had a lot of wear on them, and you can kind of see that a little bit in here. They were not very worn down, but they were, you could tell it had a lot of abuse. That's probably the better word. It had been used and abused. And I had my frustrations with it. Eventually the bolt started wearing out and the cylinder started throwing by, and what that means is when the bolt drops down, pops in place, pop there, and it goes into the notch. Well, it wasn't going into the notch, it was overpassing the notch and throwing by, and you couldn't fire the gun on several chambers. That got frustrating because I learned quickly that, as I've mentioned before in other videos, most gunsmiths do not know how to work these. They don't understand how they work, and many think they do. Long story short, I got it working. Over many years of working with this gun, of taking it apart, of getting frustrated with it, of sending it to various gunsmiths that did know what they were doing. By the way, the Colt, even before Colt stopped working on Colt revolvers, they wouldn't work on this because it was so old. My guess is at the time when I first sent it to them, they wouldn't work on pre-war guns. Anyway, after all the frustration, I finally had it reblued many years ago. It's got some holster wear on it now, but I'd still have frustrations with it, and I sent it to Cylinder and Slide, and Bill Loffridge worked on it several times for me. I had to send it back several times because it would eventually start throwing by and having bolt problems, and he could see just how worn some of these notches were, but he got it working. They got it working. I mean, Cylinder, Slide, Jack First was another one that worked on them for a while, and they still make parts. Numerich still makes parts for Colts. Certain parts like the bolt and the hand inside here that turns the cylinder. But there've been a lot of frustrations over the years. But it's all in all, it's come out into a good gun. It works perfectly now. It's fine. I've had to adjust the bolt several times. You notice it drops a little late, and that's not bad. That's good. You can do either way. Watch. Pop right before it gets to the notch and goes in. But it doesn't throw by, ever. No matter how fast you shoot it, it does not throw by. I had to replace the bolt spring several times because it would start throwing by. Finally, I got a strong enough spring from Numerich, put it in, and it started throwing by again after a while. Just a few rounds, like, oh shoot. And I got the timing to drop late. I would get it to drop like, let's see if you can show it to you. I would get it to drop like, that's a good one, right here instead of right in the middle, thinking, well, that'll help with throw by. And it did at first, but then it started throwing by again, and it would drop a little late eventually, like before it got to this ramp. And it started throwing by, oh shoot. So I adjusted the bolt, and I've explained how to do that before inside the gun, and eventually I got it to drop like right almost as it starts to get to the notch. But as I just demonstrated, it works. And I know it'll work under fire too, because I've put, in addition to all the dry firing practice I've done, which is a lot, I've also put about probably close to 250 rounds through it, some of which were low end plus P. Low end meaning about 5.0 grains of unique behind a 158 grain bullet. But it's held up fine, had no problems, no throwing by at all. It's been a good gun. So good is it now that I feel confident carrying it. And what I carry in this is a Remington 158 grain lead hollow point plus P, otherwise known as the FBI load. Winchester makes them as well. They're one of the earliest hollow point bullets out there that in the modern age, like 1950s, 60s forward, and has a good track record. It was advised to me, don't shoot anything other than a 158 grain lead bullet. That's what this particular gun was designed to shoot. You can do other things if you want to, but that's what it was intended for. Plus P, I've been told you can shoot in this, and as I said, I've done several times. It's not dangerous. It's not going to hurt the gun. It will cause accelerated wear. Don't give it a steady diet. But to do what you need it to do, it will work. And I've always liked this gun. And I guess the lesson here is, as I've said, these used guns are certainly good. They're in many cases better than what you find in the under the shelf at Academy or with Rossi, Taurus, Modern Smith & Wesson, so on and so forth. I've been through all that before, but you can certainly find good quality. The action of this has been worked. It feels good. It'll do what you need it to do. And even if a gun has a problem, like say you have your old granddad's gun. Oh gosh, it's my granddad's gun. It's old. You know, it doesn't even work. Doesn't mean it's the end of the story. You even in the worst case scenario, it's still possible to get an old gun working again and just as good as new. Maybe not as good as new, but good enough at least. And for modest fees, I mean, these old guns, I mean, you can find them in much better condition than this. I learned a lot. I learned what to look for, things to look for when buying a revolver through the mistakes I made in buying this gun. And, you know, I'm glad it's working now, but, you know, this gun has a long story to tell, and I've been working with it a lot over the years, and I really enjoy it. So, again, just because a gun is old, just because a gun may have a little wear on it, doesn't mean that it's no good anymore. You can still get it fixed. It's still possible to get that done. And it can be a lot better than what you would find in the store. So, and one more thing I wanted to cover. I mentioned pre and post war. The difference is between this and the other Smith and the other Colt official police I have is this has a blade sight, a half moon blade sight, as opposed to the ramp sight that's kind of slanted here in the back and a little bit wider. As you can see, this is a lot thinner. I like that a little more, to be honest. And the hammer's a little bit different. The hammer's shaped a bit different. And the cylinder grooves are a little deeper, and the ejector rod cap is a little shorter. I just like this all around. The V spring in here appears a lot stronger. The steel is a lot different. I've had it many years. It's never broken. Never broken. One of my other official police has broken once, and I've replaced it, but this is never broken. Anyway, it's a fine gun. I appreciate you watching this. Feel free to comment. Thanks.